"Let's still be there for each other," she said while dumping me. I nodded calmly. 2 months later, she learned being there didn't mean paying her bills, fixing her car, or weekend babysitting, especially after her brother asked about my new girlfriend from her office. I should have known something was off when Chloe suggested meeting at our usual coffee spot on a Tuesday morning instead of grabbing breakfast at home like we normally did. 4 years together, and she'd never once requested a formal sit-down at Grind Coffee unless she had something planned. I run a residential plumbing service in Richmond, so my schedule's flexible, but Chloe worked her marketing coordinator job around building her wellness lifestyle blog, which meant her mornings were usually devoted to content creation and green smoothies. I walked in expecting maybe she wanted to discuss vacation plans or her latest idea for monetizing her meditation tutorials. Instead, I found her already seated at our corner table, hands wrapped around a lavender latte, wearing that serene expression she'd perfected for her Instagram stories. "Ethan, I've been doing a lot of soul-searching lately," she began, her voice taking on that ethereal quality she used when discussing chakras or Mercury retrograde. "I feel like the universe is calling me toward a different path right now." I set down my plain black coffee and waited. 4 years of dating someone who spoke fluent wellness speak had taught me to let her finish before attempting translation into normal human language. "I need to create space for personal growth," she continued, gazing past me toward the window like she was channeling ancient wisdom. "Focus on my spiritual journey without the constraints of traditional relationship structures." The constraints of traditional relationship structures. I'd been covering 90% of our shared townhouse mortgage while she contributed sporadically between her creative projects, but apparently, I was the one creating constraints. "What exactly are you saying, Chloe?" "I think we need to transition our connection into something more evolved. We have this incredible soul bond that transcends romantic labels." She reached across the table to touch my hand, her silver rings cool against my skin. "I want us to still be there for each other, you know? Support each other's journeys. Just without the pressure of conventional expectations." She wanted to downgrade me from boyfriend to unpaid support staff while keeping all the benefits. No more relationship obligations on her end, but she'd still have someone to call when her car broke down or she needed help moving furniture for her wellness workshops. I studied her face, noting the careful way she'd applied her makeup and how she'd chosen the flowing bohemian dress that photographed well for her social media. This wasn't a spontaneous spiritual awakening. This was a calculated exit strategy. "So you want to break up but stay friends?" I said. "Not break up," she corrected quickly. "Transform our dynamic. Evolve beyond societal constructs that limit authentic connection." The irony wasn't lost on me. Someone who posted daily about authentic living was using the most inauthentic language possible to dump her boyfriend of 4 years. But instead of arguing or demanding real explanations, I surprised both of us. "Okay," I said simply. Her perfectly contoured eyebrows lifted slightly. "Okay. Yeah. If that's what you need for your spiritual journey, I support it." I took a sip of my coffee, watching her process my unexpected calm. "You're right about us having a special connection. We should definitely still be there for each other." Relief flooded her features, followed quickly by something that might have been disappointment. She'd probably expected drama, tears, maybe some begging that would reinforce her decision while feeding her ego. Instead, she got easy agreement from someone who'd apparently learned to speak her language. "I'm so glad you understand," she said, though she looked slightly confused. "I was worried you might take this the wrong way." "Not at all. I think it's mature of you to recognize what you need." I was already formulating my own interpretation of what being there for each other actually meant, and I had a feeling Chloe's definition was about to get a serious reality check. We hugged goodbye outside the coffee shop, and she whispered something about how our souls would always be connected across time and space. I nodded and told her to drive safely, then watched her walk to her car with that practiced mindful gait she'd developed since starting her meditation practice. 20 minutes later, I was back at the townhouse we'd shared for 2 years, looking around with fresh eyes. A place. Except I'd been paying $2,200 of the $2,400 monthly mortgage while Chloe contributed $200 when her blog income allowed, which wasn't often. I covered utilities, most of the groceries, and handled all the maintenance because traditional gender roles felt authentic to her spiritual path when it came to plumbing and electrical work. Mason, our basement tenant, paid $600 monthly for his space, but that money went straight to Chloe since she'd handled the roommate arrangement. I started calculating numbers in my head, something I should have done years ago. Chloe made about $35,000 annually from her marketing job, plus maybe another $3,000 from her wellness content when sponsors paid attention. She had $400 monthly student loan payments and credit card debt from what she called investments in personal development courses, expensive retreats, and certification programs that promised to unlock her potential. Without my contribution, she'd need to cover a $2,200 mortgage payment plus $300 in utilities on roughly $2,400 monthly take-home pay. The math didn't work, and I had a feeling her spiritual journey was about to include some very earthly lessons about financial reality. I pulled out my phone and started researching one-bedroom apartments near my workshop. If Chloe wanted to evolve beyond conventional relationship structures, she could start by evolving beyond expecting her ex-boyfriend to subsidize her lifestyle. Within 48 hours, I'd found a modest one-bedroom apartment 15 minutes from my workshop and scheduled the move for month's end. Chloe was upstairs in what used to be our shared office, probably crafting an Instagram post about embracing change and trusting the universe, when I knocked on the doorframe. "Hey, I wanted to let you know I'll be moving out by the 31st, I said casually, like I was announcing a grocery store run. She looked up from her laptop, where she'd been editing a photo of herself in warrior pose against our living room's exposed brick wall. "Moving out? I thought we were going to figure out a new living arrangement." "We are figuring it out. You'll need to refinance the mortgage or sell the place. I'll fulfill my legal obligations until then, but I won't be living here anymore." The color drained from her face faster than water down a broken pipe. "Ethan, that's not what I meant when I said we should still be there for each other." "What did you mean exactly?" She closed the laptop and turned to face me fully, her Zen facade already cracking. "I meant we could support each other emotionally while exploring new relationship dynamics. Maybe you could keep the basement room, and we could see how things develop naturally." Translation: she wanted me to pay rent to live in my own house while she dated other people and kept her financial safety net intact. "That doesn't feel authentic to my spiritual journey," I said, borrowing her language. "I think we both need space to grow." Over the next 2 weeks, reality began setting in. I watched Chloe cycle through every emotion except acceptance as she realized replacing my $2,200 monthly contribution was impossible on her income. She tried meditation apps, journaling sessions, and even called her life coach for emergency guidance, but none of them could magically increase her bank account balance. Mason, our basement tenant who worked night shifts in security, became an unwilling witness to Chloe's emotional transformation. He'd known us both for 2 years, kept to himself mostly, but occasionally emerged from his cave-like apartment to grab mail or check the shared laundry. "Dude, what's going on upstairs?" he asked me one evening as I loaded my truck with tools. "Sounds like someone's having a breakdown every night around 11. "Chloe's processing some life changes," I said diplomatically. "Processing? Man, last night she was on the phone crying about sacred bonds and masculine energy abandonment. I thought maybe someone died." I almost laughed. Someone had died, the version of herself that could afford her lifestyle. But I just shrugged and kept loading equipment. Mason was smart enough to stay neutral in whatever drama was unfolding above his head. The real entertainment started when Chloe began her campaign to change my mind. First came the spiritual manipulation phase, where she left crystals on my dresser with handwritten notes about healing our energetic connection. Then she tried practical negotiation, offering to increase her mortgage contribution to $400 monthly if I'd reconsider moving out. When I pointed out that still left her $1,800 short, she suggested we manifest abundance together through shared intention-setting rituals. "Ethan, you're not seeing the bigger picture," she said one evening, cornering me in the kitchen while I packed my coffee maker. "This could be an opportunity for us to create something completely new. A conscious uncoupling that honors our deep soul connection." I am honoring our connection. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for, space to focus on your spiritual journey without the constraints of traditional relationship structures. Her face twisted with frustration. But I didn't mean you should abandon me completely. I'm not abandoning you. I'm supporting your independence. The panic phase arrived when she realized I was serious about leaving. She started posting cryptic Instagram stories about unexpected challenges testing her faith and learning to trust divine timing during difficult transitions. Her wellness guru followers offered sympathy and platitudes, but none of them offered to cover her mortgage payments. She applied for roommate matching services, posted on Craigslist, and even asked her coworkers if anyone needed housing. The responses were either creepy guys who clearly had ulterior motives or college students who couldn't afford anywhere near what she needed them to pay. By week 3, desperation had completely replaced her earlier serenity. Ethan, please. I made a mistake. I was confused about what I wanted, but I realize now that our connection is too special to throw away. I was loading the last of my furniture when she made this final plea, tears streaming down her face in a way that would have destroyed me 6 months earlier. Now I just felt sad for both of us, her for not understanding what she'd actually been asking for, and me for taking so long to recognize my own worth. Chloe, you weren't confused. You were honest about wanting something different, and I respect that. But you can't have a spiritual awakening and expect everyone else to subsidize it. But what am I supposed to do about the house? Figure it out. I have faith in your ability to handle this challenge. I handed her my keys and headed for my truck, leaving her standing in the doorway of a house she couldn't afford, finally understanding the difference between emotional support and financial rescue. My new one-bedroom apartment was exactly what I needed: clean, functional, and completely drama-free. I'd chosen a place with a small garage where I could store overflow equipment and a kitchen that actually had proper water pressure, something I'd been meaning to fix at the townhouse for months but never got around to because I was always handling Chloe's emergencies instead. The first test of our new, still being there for each other, arrangement came 3 days after I moved out. My phone rang at 7 in the morning with Chloe's contact photo, a serene selfie she'd taken during a meditation retreat, filling the screen. Ethan, thank God you answered. My car broke down on Broad Street and it's pouring rain. I have a client meeting in an hour and I'm completely stranded. The old me would have already been grabbing my keys and toolbox, ready to diagnose her Toyota's issues while she waited in my heated truck. The new me took a sip of coffee and opened my laptop. That sounds really stressful. Let me text you some reliable towing companies. Silence. Then, towing companies? Can't you just come look at it? You always know how to fix these things. I'm confident you can handle this independently. Morrison's Auto Service is great for emergencies, and AAA responds pretty quickly in that area. You've got this. I sent her 3 different phone numbers along with an encouraging message about believing in her problem-solving abilities. 20 minutes later, she texted back that AAA had towed her car and her client had rescheduled, but her tone suggested she'd expected a different kind of support. The next emergency arrived the following week. Chloe was hosting a wellness workshop in her living room, something about manifesting abundance through chakra alignment, when her kitchen sink backed up the night before. Instead of panicking and calling me like she used to, she actually tried to handle it herself first, which I respected. But when her attempts with a plunger failed, my phone started buzzing. The whole kitchen smells terrible and I have 12 people coming tomorrow morning for my workshop. This is a disaster. Sounds like a great learning opportunity. YouTube has some excellent tutorials for sink blockages, and the hardware store on Patterson has everything you'd need. Main thing is don't use chemical drain cleaners if you're planning to try snaking it yourself. Ethan, I don't know how to snake a drain. Can't you just come fix it real quick? I have complete faith in your ability to figure this out. Sometimes the universe gives us exactly the challenges we need to grow. I was using her own language against her, and we both knew it. She managed to clear the blockage herself using a combination of baking soda, vinegar, and a cheap drain snake from Home Depot. Her Instagram story that night featured a photo of her dirty hands holding the snake with a caption about embracing unexpected lessons in self-reliance and discovering inner strength through practical challenges. I actually liked that version of Chloe better than the one who'd expected me to handle everything. The most interesting test came when her sister Rachel needed childcare for her twin toddlers during a weekend retreat. Historically, this meant Chloe would volunteer my services along with hers, turning our place into a daycare while Rachel recharged her spiritual batteries at some mountain resort. Rachel's really counting on me, but I can't handle Logan and Emma by myself for 3 days. They're at that stage where they climb everything and need constant supervision. That's tough. There are some excellent childcare services in the area though. I can recommend a few that specialize in weekend coverage. Professional childcare costs like $400 for a weekend. Rachel can't afford that. Then maybe Rachel needs to reconsider her retreat timing or find a different solution. You're not responsible for subsidizing other people's vacations. The conversation went in circles for a while, with Chloe alternating between guilt trips about family obligations and lectures about how real friends sacrifice for each other. But I held firm, suggesting she explore her options independently while offering emotional support through encouraging texts about her capability to handle difficult decisions. She ended up finding a neighborhood teenager who babysat for $50 a day, and Rachel's retreat happened without any drama. Chloe seemed genuinely proud of her problem-solving skills, though she made sure to mention several times how much easier things used to be when we were together. Each crisis followed the same pattern: initial panic, expectation of rescue, gentle redirection toward self-sufficiency, and eventual success that she'd document on social media as personal growth. I started to realize that always jumping in to fix things hadn't been helping either of us. She'd never learned to handle problems independently, and I'd never learned to let people struggle toward their own solutions. Our new dynamic was actually healthier, even if it wasn't what she'd originally intended. Meeting Iris happened completely by accident, which made it even better. 3 weeks after moving out, I got a call from someone at Creative Solutions Marketing asking if I could handle an emergency plumbing situation at their office. The voice was professional but stressed. Apparently their main bathroom had flooded overnight and they had client meetings all day. "We got your number from our building directory, and honestly you're the only local plumber who answered the phone this early," she said. "Can you be here in an hour?" I arrived to find water damage in their hallway and a woman with dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing jeans and a company t-shirt, directing traffic around the wet areas with surprising efficiency. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her immediately. "You must be Ethan." "I'm Iris, graphic design and social media. Thank you for coming so quickly." Then it clicked. I'd seen her at a few company events Chloe had dragged me to, though we'd never really talked. She'd always seemed more interested in discussing the technical aspects of things rather than networking for her personal brand, which had made her stand out in Chloe's crowd. "No problem. Let me assess the damage and see what we're dealing with." The main line had backed up due to tree root intrusion, nothing too complicated but messy enough to require most of my morning. While I worked, Iris brought me coffee and asked intelligent questions about the repair process. She wasn't just making conversation, she actually wanted to understand how building systems worked, which I found refreshing after years of Chloe's eyes glazing over whenever I mentioned anything work-related. "So the roots can actually break through the pipes? That seems like a design flaw," she said, watching me clear the blockage. "It's more about age and soil conditions. These older buildings weren't designed for the tree growth patterns we see now. Prevention's really the key. Like most things in life, I guess. Easier to maintain than repair." I glanced up at her, surprised by the insight. Most people just wanted their problems fixed quickly and cheaply. When I finished the repair, Iris insisted on walking me through the billing process personally instead of handing it off to their office manager. "I know this was an emergency call, so I want to make sure you're compensated fairly. Too many contractors get stiffed by companies that claim budget issues after the work's done." We ended up talking for another 20 minutes about her frustrations with performative social media culture. Ironic, considering she managed several business accounts professionally. The worst part is when people mistake posting about values for actually living them. Like, "Your Instagram feed isn't your personality," she said, then paused. "Sorry, I'm probably oversharing. It's just refreshing to talk to someone who seems genuine," I was just thinking the same thing about you. The conversation felt natural in a way I'd forgotten was possible. No agenda, no performance, just two people connecting over shared perspectives. When she mentioned loving old movies and weekend home improvement projects, I found myself suggesting coffee sometime, completely forgetting she worked with Chloe. I'd really like that, she said, then hesitated. But I should probably mention, I know we have a mutual connection. Chloe's mentioned you before, though I didn't realize you two had broken up until this week. How'd you find out? She's been posting a lot about navigating unexpected life transitions and learning to trust the universe during challenging times. Plus, she asked our whole team if anyone knew reliable roommates with good credit. I had to laugh. Sounds about right. Does that make things weird for you? Not really. Honestly, Chloe and I don't interact much beyond work stuff. Different philosophies about most things. Over the next 2 weeks, Iris and I met for coffee twice, then graduated to an actual dinner at a local brewery. The contrast with dating Chloe was striking. Iris insisted on splitting every check, arrived exactly on time, and seemed genuinely interested in my business plans and weekend projects. She told me about her freelance design work and her rescue cat Winston, who apparently had strong opinions about her choice in overnight guests. He's an excellent judge of character. Hates my ex-boyfriend to this day, but he loved my college roommate's husband from the moment they met. Some kind of intuitive screening process. What's his verdict on current prospects? I asked. TBD, but he's been unusually friendly lately. I think that's a good sign. Our first official date lasted 4 hours, covering everything from our worst renovation mistakes to our shared love of classic Hitchcock films. She had this way of listening that made me remember why I enjoyed conversation, and her laugh was completely unself-conscious. Nothing like Chloe's carefully modulated responses designed for maximum aesthetic impact. By the time we left the brewery, I realized I hadn't thought about Chloe's latest crisis in days, which felt like progress. While I was discovering what healthy dating actually looked like, Chloe was learning that replacing a reliable roommate isn't as simple as posting "good vibes only" on Craigslist. After 3 weeks of increasingly desperate roommate interviews, she finally settled on Garrett, a 22-year-old recent college graduate who worked at a call center and seemed responsible during their video chat. He could cover $800 monthly toward the mortgage, which still left Chloe short but was better than nothing. I heard about Garrett's arrival through Mason, who'd started texting me regular updates about the chaos upstairs. Apparently, our former basement dweller had developed a front-row seat to the greatest roommate disaster in Richmond history. Dude moved in with like 6 Amazon boxes and a gaming chair, Mason reported. Day 2, he's already taken over the living room with some kind of streaming setup. Chloe keeps walking around muttering about energetic disruption and misaligned intentions. Within a week, Garrett had revealed his true character. The responsible college graduate persona evaporated faster than Chloe's morning meditation practice. He treated the common areas like his personal storage unit, leaving dirty dishes in the sink for days and storing his protein powder collection on every available counter space. His idea of cleaning was spraying Febreze on things and calling it aromatherapy. The real nightmare was his social life. Garrett brought different dates home 3 or 4 nights a week, and apparently believed that thin townhouse walls provided adequate soundproofing for his romantic encounters. Mason, who worked night shifts and needed to sleep during the day, started wearing earplugs and asked me if I knew any good apartment hunting websites. "I'm too old for this college dorm bullshit," he said during one of our increasingly frequent check-ins. Yesterday I came home to find some random girl making breakfast in her underwear while Garrett was passed out on the couch. She asked me if I was the other roommate and whether I wanted to hang out later. The financial arrangement proved equally disastrous. Garrett consistently forgot his utility contributions, claiming his call center job had irregular pay schedules. Meanwhile, he ordered DoorDash delivery every single night, spending more on convenience food than most people spend on groceries. His contribution to household supplies was limited to buying the cheapest toilet paper available and leaving it in the hallway like some kind of peace offering. Chloe's wellness guru image started cracking under the pressure. Her Instagram posts shifted from serene meditation photos to increasingly frantic content about learning patience through challenging roommate dynamics and maintaining inner peace during external chaos. Her follower engagement dropped noticeably when people realized her spiritual journey looked a lot like complaining about dirty dishes and loud music. The breaking point came when Garrett decided to throw an impromptu party while Chloe was visiting her parents for the weekend. Mason texted me around midnight with updates that read like a disaster movie script. 20 people showed up. Someone's throwing up in the front yard. Music's so loud I can hear it through my noise-canceling headphones. Pretty sure someone just broke something expensive upstairs. By morning, Garrett's party had resulted in red wine stains on the hardwood floors, a broken coffee table, and a formal noise complaint from the neighbors. When Chloe returned Sunday evening to find her living room destroyed, she completely lost her spiritual composure. Mason could hear her screaming about disrespect and sacred space violation from his basement apartment. She kept yelling about how this was supposed to be her sanctuary for spiritual growth, Mason reported. Garrett just kept saying, "Chill out," and offering to Venmo her $20 for cleaning supplies. I think she actually considered violence for a minute there. That's when my phone started ringing. Chloe called me 3 times before I answered, and when I finally picked up, she was crying so hard I could barely understand her words. "Ethan, I need your help. Garrett's destroyed everything and I don't know how to handle this. I've never had to evict someone before and I'm completely overwhelmed." That sounds incredibly stressful. Have you contacted a tenant rights organization for guidance? I can't figure this out alone. You always knew how to handle difficult people and legal stuff. Please, I'm drowning here. Chloe, I believe in your ability to research eviction procedures and advocate for yourself. This is exactly the kind of challenge that helps us develop new skills. But I don't want to develop new skills. I want this nightmare to end. Her honesty was refreshing, even if it came from desperation. I gave her the contact information for 2 different tenant advocacy groups and suggested she document all the property damage with photos before approaching Garrett about leaving voluntarily. I even offered encouragement about her capability to handle conflict resolution independently. What I didn't offer was to come over and fix everything for her, which was clearly what she'd been hoping for. The bombshell that changed everything came from the most unexpected source, Chloe's brother Jake. Iris and I had been dating for about 6 weeks when we decided to check out the weekend farmers market downtown, something that had become our Saturday morning routine. We were debating the merits of different apple varieties when I heard someone call my name. "Ethan. Man, what are you doing here?" I turned to find Jake approaching with a huge grin, carrying a bag of what looked like enough vegetables to feed a small army. Jake worked in IT at the same marketing firm as Iris, though they were in different departments. He'd always been the practical one in Chloe's family, the guy who'd helped me install their parents' home security system and actually understood why proper electrical grounding mattered. "Hey Jake, good to see you. This is Iris." I watched Jake's face light up with genuine warmth as he shook her hand. "Iris, you're the graphic designer, right? I've heard great things about your work from the tech side. That new client portal interface you designed is actually intuitive, which is rare." "Thanks, that's really nice to hear. Jake's the one who made sure all my design elements actually function properly," Iris replied. "I know enough about back-end systems to be dangerous, but he made everything work seamlessly." I watched them connect over shared work experiences while I stood there holding a bag of organic carrots, realizing I was witnessing the moment everything was about to change. Jake had always considered me family, and his confusion about our breakup had been evident during the few times we'd crossed paths around town. Now he was seeing me happy with someone new, someone from his workplace who he clearly respected. "So you two are dating? That's awesome. Ethan, you look really good, man. More relaxed than I've seen you in years." Jake's enthusiasm was infectious and completely genuine. "Iris, this guy's one of the good ones. When Chloe's parents had that pipe burst last winter, Ethan drove out in a blizzard at midnight to fix it. Wouldn't take any payment either." "That sounds exactly like something he'd do," Iris said, smiling at me in a way that made my chest feel warm. We spent another 20 minutes talking about weekend plans and Jake's latest home renovation project. He was installing a smart thermostat system and wanted advice about compatible plumbing sensors, which led to a conversation about whole house automation that Iris followed with surprising technical insight. By the time we parted ways, Jake had invited us both to his housewarming party next month and made Iris promise to help him design better presentation slides for his department meetings. See you Monday at work, Iris. And Ethan, we should grab a beer soon and catch up properly. The next evening, Jake called Chloe during their weekly family dinner. I found out about this conversation 3 days later when Chloe's social media behavior went completely insane. According to Mason, who'd become my unofficial intelligence source, Jake had casually mentioned running into me at the farmer's market with my really cool girlfriend from your office. He described how happy I seemed and how much he'd liked Iris, completely unaware he was dropping a nuclear bomb on his sister's emotional landscape. Chloe's reaction was apparently seismic. Mason reported hearing screaming, crying, and what sounded like furniture being thrown around upstairs. Within hours, she'd launched a full-scale social media investigation, scrolling through every photo Iris had ever posted and screenshotting anything that might indicate when our relationship had started. Her findings launched a group text campaign to all our mutual friends, painting herself as the victim of an elaborate betrayal. The narrative she created was impressive in its creativity. Iris had obviously been pursuing me while we were still together, I'd been emotionally cheating for months, and the breakup had been orchestrated so I could be with her guilt-free. She conveniently omitted her own dating app adventures from the first week after our split, when she'd posted Instagram stories about embracing divine feminine energy and opening her heart to new possibilities. The whole victim campaign fell apart within 24 hours when friends started responding with screenshots of her own posts featuring different men and her public declarations about needing space to explore her spiritual path. Someone even found the post where she'd explicitly stated that she was evolving beyond traditional relationship structures and excited to discover her authentic self without romantic constraints. "Dude, she's losing it," Mason texted me. "Yesterday she spent 4 hours researching whether there are legal implications for dating coworkers of ex-partners. Like she's going to sue you for moving on with your life." The final nail in her victim narrative came when our mutual friend David pointed out that she'd introduced him to her tantric energy healing practitioner the same week she'd dumped me. Apparently, her spiritual journey had included exploring sacred sexuality with a guy who charged $300 for something called chakra alignment through intimate breathwork. Her credibility evaporated faster than her savings account, and the group text went silent. But Chloe wasn't finished yet. Garrett's reign of terror ended exactly the way Mason predicted it would, with him fleeing in the middle of the night after getting caught stealing packages from the building lobby. The final straw came when Mrs. Patterson from 3B confronted him about her missing prescription delivery, and building management got involved. Rather than face potential criminal charges, Garrett packed his gaming chair and disappeared, leaving behind unpaid utility bills, property damage, and a refrigerator full of expired energy drinks. He literally left a note saying, "Sorry about the mess, good vibes only," Mason reported. Chloe found it taped to the broken coffee table he never replaced. She's been sitting on the floor staring at foreclosure notices for 2 hours. Without Garrett's partial contribution and facing mounting debt from his damages, Chloe's financial house of cards finally collapsed completely. The bank initiated foreclosure proceedings within 6 weeks, and her dreams of maintaining an independent wellness guru lifestyle crumbled along with her credit score. She was forced to move back into her parents' guest room in suburban Virginia, effectively destroying the carefully crafted image she'd spent years building on social media. The irony wasn't lost on me. Someone who'd preached about manifesting abundance and trusting the universe had manifested herself right back into her childhood bedroom, surrounded by participation trophies and high school yearbooks. Her Instagram account went dark for 3 weeks before re-emerging with a completely different tone, focused on healing family relationships and finding gratitude in unexpected circumstances. The wellness guru who used to post daily affirmations about deserving luxury was now sharing photos of home-cooked meals with captions about simple pleasures and appreciating life's basic gifts. Meanwhile, My life was becoming everything I'd never dared to hope for with Chloe. Iris moved into my apartment after her lease ended, bringing Winston the judgmental cat and her impressive collection of vintage design books. Winston's approval process turned out to be thorough but fair. He spent 3 days evaluating my worthiness before finally claiming my favorite reading chair as his own, which Iris interpreted as the feline equivalent of a blessing. Our partnership felt effortless in ways that my relationship with Chloe never had. Iris contributed equally to expenses without being asked, handled her own car maintenance, and actually enjoyed discussing business strategies for expanding my plumbing service. Her marketing insights helped me design a professional website that doubled my client inquiries within 2 months, and her graphic design skills created business cards that looked like they belonged to a company twice my size. We found a perfect fixer-upper house 6 months later, a 1920s craftsman with original hardwood floors, a kitchen that needed complete renovation, and a detached workshop that made my contractor heart sing. The sunroom off the back had perfect lighting for Iris's freelance design studio, and the basement had enough space for Winston's elaborate cat tower system plus Mason's gaming setup, since he decided to rent our spare room after his own lease ended. "It's like the universe finally got its shit together," Mason said while helping us move furniture. "You two actually make sense together. None of that performative spirituality nonsense, just two people who like each other and happen to be good at complementary things." He was right. Iris and I worked on house projects together every weekend, debating tile choices and paint colors with the kind of focused intensity that Chloe would have found boring. But we found it deeply satisfying, the process of building something real together, making decisions based on practical considerations and shared aesthetic preferences rather than what would photograph well for social media. Our first major renovation was the kitchen, where Iris's design vision combined perfectly with my technical knowledge of plumbing and electrical systems. We spent 3 months creating something beautiful and functional, documenting the process not for Instagram likes but for our own satisfaction and future reference. The final result was a space that reflected both our personalities, clean lines and efficient workflow, but warm enough for long conversations over morning coffee. 6 months after we moved in, I realized I hadn't heard from Chloe in weeks. No emergency calls, no requests for emotional support, no updates about her spiritual journey. The silence felt peaceful rather than concerning, like the natural conclusion of a chapter I'd already finished reading. I'd honored her exact words. I'd remained emotionally supportive through encouraging texts and positive affirmations while completely withdrawing the practical assistance she'd always assumed was permanent. My ultimate revenge had been simply taking her at face value and watching her self-created lifestyle collapse while I built something real with someone who valued partnership over convenience. Iris and I were planning our engagement when I finally heard the last update about Chloe through Jake at a family barbecue. She'd started dating a yoga instructor who lived in his parents' converted garage and sold essential oils through social media. They were apparently planning to move to Costa Rica together to start an eco-retreat center, funded by a crowdfunding campaign that had raised about $300 in 2 months. "She seems happy," Jake said diplomatically. "Different but happy. Mom thinks the yoga guy might actually be good for her because he's broke too, so she can't expect him to solve her financial problems." I wished her well and meant it. Some people need to lose everything before they can build something authentic, and maybe Costa Rica would give her the fresh start she'd been seeking all along. As for me, I was exactly where I belonged, in a house Iris and I were renovating together, planning a future based on mutual respect and genuine partnership rather than spiritual buzzwords and financial dependency. The difference between settling for someone and choosing someone had never been clearer, and I was grateful every day that Chloe had been brave enough to end something that wasn't working, even if her reasons had been completely wrong.